Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Radio Channel, your favorite place to practice listening and learn new skills. I am your host, Mark, and I am so thrilled to have you tuning in with us today for another deep dive into the English language.
Hello, everyone. It is wonderful to be back in the studio with all of you, and I can already feel the great energy coming from our listeners today.
Sarah, it is great to see you. You seem to have a real spring in your step this morning. How are you doing today?
I am feeling fantastic, Mark, because I finally finished reading that massive mystery novel I started last month. It was such a page-turner that I stayed up a little too late, but the ending was so worth it.
I love that feeling of finally solving a mystery. It's like a little victory for the brain. Today, we're diving into a topic that is the heartbeat of any conversation: how to ask questions.
Oh, that is such an important topic, but it can be quite scary for many language learners. Students often worry about using the wrong word order or sounding a bit too direct.
You're exactly right, and that is why we're here to help you navigate these tricky waters. Please remember to subscribe, like, and share this episode with a friend who is also on their English learning journey.
Yes, please do. Liking and sharing helps our channel reach more learners around the world and keeps our community growing.
Sarah, why is the ability to ask questions so vital for English learners who want to reach a high level of fluency?
Well, questions are the key to everything. We use them in jobs to get information, while traveling to find our way, and especially when making new friends. I remember being totally lost in London once, and I realized I didn't know the most natural way to ask for the train station.
That sounds like a stressful situation, but it perfectly illustrates why we need these tools in our linguistic toolbox. Another reason is the cultural expectation of politeness, as asking thoughtful questions shows you are genuinely interested.
Exactly. It shows you care about their perspective and aren't just waiting for your turn to speak. Today, we're going to break down the art of the question into small, easy-to-follow steps.
That is the plan for this session. First, we'll talk about the basic grammar, then move into deeper personal conversations and common mistakes. Okay, let's jump right in and start our first role play. Sarah, let's pretend we are meeting at a professional business conference for the very first time.
That sounds like a great scenario. Mark, what is your current job title?
I am a senior communications consultant. Let me spell that for our listeners. CONSULTANT.
That sounds like a very responsible position. I'm a graphic designer, so our roles are quite different, but both involve creativity.
They certainly do. Where do you usually work from during the week?
I usually work from a bright, modern studio in the center of the city. It has massive windows and a very inspiring atmosphere that helps me focus.
Why did you choose to work in a shared studio rather than from home?
I chose the studio because I find that being around other creative people helps me stay motivated.
Now that we have covered the basics, let's look at how we use questions to really get to know someone's personality.
I love that. Mark, tell me, what is one of your favorite childhood memories involving a family trip?
I remember one time when I was about 7 and my family went camping. One night, my father tried to set up the tent in the dark, but he accidentally put it up inside out.
Oh, wow, that is such a funny and wholesome image. Did you actually manage to sleep in the inside-out tent for the rest of the night?
We did, and we laughed under the stars until morning. It taught me resilience, which means the ability to stay positive when things go wrong.
That is a beautiful lesson. My experience was quite the opposite. I once went on a very organized school trip to a museum, but I found it a bit stuffy.
Stuffy is a great word for our listeners. Stuffy, S-T-U-F-F-Y, means a place that lacks fresh air or a situation that feels very formal and boring.
Exactly. For example, the library was so stuffy that I had to go outside to take a deep breath.
You also used the word wholesome earlier. That means something that is good for your soul or morally healthy, like a nice family story.
I'll use it in a new sentence. Watching the children play together in the park was a very wholesome experience.
Let's slow things down a bit and look at some phrases. Sarah, you used the idiom, a spring in your step. Could you explain that?
Of course. If you have a spring in your step, it means you are walking in a happy, energetic way because you feel positive.
Another phrase we used was heartbeat of a conversation. This implies that questions are the most essential part that keeps the talk alive.
Yes, and we also mentioned navigating tricky waters. This is a metaphorical way of saying we are dealing with a difficult or complicated situation.
Let's look at the word secluded. I mentioned a secluded lake. This means a place that is private, quiet, and far away from others.
That's a great travel word. It's the opposite of crowded or touristy.
We also mentioned linguistic toolbox. This refers to all the words and grammar rules a person knows and can use.
I am adding new idioms to my linguistic toolbox every single week.
What about the phrase deep dive? We use that at the very beginning of the show.
A deep dive is an in-depth exploration of a topic where we look at all the small, complex details.
Exactly, like when we don't just learn the word ask, but we learn the culture behind it.
You also mentioned my energy was contagious. This means a feeling or mood that spreads quickly from one person to another.
Right, if I'm happy and it makes you happy, my joy is contagious.
That's a much better way to be contagious than having a cold.
Let's look at navigating tricky waters one more time. In English, we often use water metaphors to describe social challenges.
That's true, like saying a situation is sink or swim, which means you either succeed or fail completely.
Or being in the same boat, which means sharing the same difficult circumstances.
Our listeners are all in the same boat as they try to master English questions together.
I love that. It makes our community feel like a team. Sarah, I noticed you used the word fluency earlier. Could you define that for someone who might be a beginner?
Fluency is the ability to speak or write a language easily, well, and quickly without having to stop and think too much.
It's the goal for many of our listeners. Another word we used was perspective.
A perspective is a particular way of considering something or a point of view.
So, by asking questions, we are essentially broadening our perspectives by learning how others see the world.
Precisely. Broadening just means making something wider or more inclusive.
Let's talk about the word scenario. We used it when we started our role play.
A scenario is a description of possible actions or events. It's like a what-if situation.
In our case, the scenario was meeting at a business conference.
You also mentioned communications consultant. That sounds quite prestigious.
Prestigious means something that is very much respected or has a high status.
I think all our listeners are prestigious for taking the time to learn a second language.
I couldn't agree more. Let's look at inspiring. You use that to describe your studio.
Inspiring describes something that gives you new ideas or the desire to do something creative.
Like a beautiful sunset or a great song.
Or a really well-asked question that makes you think for hours.
There are many idioms about asking questions. Have you ever heard the phrase, curiosity killed the cat?
I have. It's a warning that being too curious or asking too many questions can lead you into trouble.
But we usually reply with, but satisfaction brought it back, meaning it's worth it to find the answer.
That's a relief. I also like the phrase to pop the question.
Careful now. To pop the question specifically means to ask someone to marry you.
You're right. You wouldn't want to use that accidentally in a business meeting.
Excuse me, Mr. CEO, I'd like to pop the question about the budget. Everyone would be very confused.
Another good one is to ask for the moon.
That means to ask for something that is impossible or totally unrealistic.
Like asking for a 500% pay raise on your first day of work.
Exactly. And what about no questions asked?
That means something is done without any conditions or without needing an explanation.
I will help you move house this weekend. No questions asked.
You are such a good friend, Mark.
Let's talk about the tricky parts that trip up English learners. Sarah, what is a common mistake you hear regarding word order?
A very common mistake is forgetting the auxiliary verb do or does entirely. People often say, you like coffee? using just their voice to show it's a question.
While people might understand you, it isn't grammatically correct. Let me demonstrate the wrong way. Where you go yesterday.
And the correct, right way is, where did you go yesterday?
Notice how we need that did to show we are talking about the past. Another mistake is, why are you late? Which should be, why are you late?
Yes, the verb and the subject need to swap places in most English questions.
Let's talk about likes versus dislikes. Sarah, what do you find off-putting when someone is questioning you?
Off-putting means something that makes you feel uncomfortable. I find it off-putting when someone asks rapid-fire questions, like an interrogation.
It feels like you are being interviewed by the police. It's important to give and take. Ask a question, then share a little bit about yourself.
I agree. I also dislike questions that are too personal too soon, like, how much money do you make?
That's a great cultural tip. In many English-speaking countries, money is a hush-hush topic.
Hush-hush means something kept secret or quiet.
Exactly. It's better to stick to small talk until you know someone better.
Small talk includes topics like the weather, hobbies, or local events.
This has been a very fruitful discussion. Let's do a quick speed round to summarize the key points.
I'm ready. To recap, you are a communications consultant who loves wholesome memories, and you have great resilience when camping.
Spot on. And for you, Sarah, you are a graphic designer who works in an inspiring studio, and you find stuffy museums a bit off-putting.
That is a perfect summary. Now let's give our listeners a hypothetical scenario. If you are at a crowded party and see someone alone, what do you ask?
I would walk up and say, "Hi there. How do you know the host of the party?"
That is a perfect icebreaker. An icebreaker is a comment or question used to start a conversation and make people feel more relaxed.
Another one could be, "Have you tried the food? It looks delicious."
Those are both excellent examples because they focus on the shared environment.
What if you want to ask someone for the time, politely?
You could say, "Excuse me, do you happen to have the time?"
Using "do you happen to" makes it sound even more polite and less demanding.
It gives the person an out if they don't know the answer.
Before we wrap up, I want to give our advanced learners some extra credit phrases. These are more sophisticated ways to ask for information.
Oh, I love extra credit. Instead of saying, "What do you mean?" what could they say?
They could say, "Could you please clarify what you mean by that?" Or, "Could you elaborate on that point?"
Elaborate, elaborate, means to add more detail or explain something more fully.
Exactly. Or, if you want to be very polite when asking for a favor, you could say, "I was wondering if you might be able to help me."
Starting with "I was wondering" makes the question sound much softer and less demanding.
Another great one is, "Would you mind?" which is very common in British and American English.
"Would you mind opening the window?" is much more polite than "open the window."
What if you want to ask for someone's opinion in a formal meeting?
You might ask, "What are your thoughts on this proposal?"
That sounds very professional. It invites the other person to share their expertise.
And if you didn't hear someone clearly?
Instead of "what?" try, "I'm sorry, could you repeat that?" Or even, "Pardon?"
Pardon is a bit more formal, but it's very clear and polite.
We should briefly mention indirect questions. These are questions inside of other sentences.
Oh, those are tricky because the word order changes back to a normal sentence.
Exactly. In "Do you know where the bank is?" the verb is goes to the end.
That is one of the most common mistakes learners make. They often say, "Do you know where is the bank?"
Right, but remember, once you start with "do you know" or "can you tell me," the rest of the sentence follows a normal statement order.
So it's, "Can you tell me what time it is?" instead of, "Can you tell me what time is it?"
You've got it. It takes a lot of practice to make that automatic.
But once you get it, you sound so much more natural and fluent.
It's like a secret level of English proficiency.
I think our listeners are ready for that secret level.
Well, time flies when you're having fun, and we have reached the end of this episode.
I truly learned a lot today, Mark. It's amazing how much the right question can open doors to new friendships.
It really can. Now it's time for the viewer challenge.
We want you to go to the comment section right now and put your new skills to the test. Use this template. Hi, Mark and Sarah. My name is your name, and I was wondering, what is your favorite hobby, food, or place?
Try to use one of the new words we learned today, like wholesome or inspiring.
Don't be shy. Our community is a safe space for everyone to practice and make mistakes.
We love reading your comments, and we make it a point to respond to as many as we can. Finally, please subscribe and click that bell icon so you are notified of new lessons.
Thank you all for listening and for being such diligent students today.
Keep practicing those questions, and we will see you in the next episode. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye and happy questioning.
Would you like me to create a visual flowchart of these different question types to help you visualize the grammar rules we covered today?